Morning, everybody. Just testing out my audio real quick to see how it sounds. And I will be live here right at the top of the hour. So once I hear my audio, I will be shutting this back off to and I'm not getting audio. Let's see, what is the deal? There we go. Okay, audio's up. I'm going to close this out. And I'll be back up at, like I said, right at the top of the hour. So we are looking good. I hope you are. If you're out there in the chat, say hi. I'm on the chat right now. But I'm just getting my stuff set up like usual. Like usual. Hey, good morning, Peter. Yep. I'm running a lot of stuff today, so if this gets a little choppy, we'll try and smooth it out. But there's always something that can go wrong because it's the internet, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So, but my bit rate looks good, and my feeds look good, and so yeah, we're looking good so far. So I'm going to do a couple things, and then okay, cool. Yeah, thanks. It's going to be a great show. It's going to be, yeah, today's going to be good. So yeah, everybody, I will be live here in just a few minutes. All right. Morning, everybody. It's me, Michael Kyer, and I use he, they pronouns. I'm out here streaming Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific every week. And I'm just gonna, yep, there we go. All right, good morning. I talk about live streaming and video conferencing. That's what I do. And I've been working on this since March of 2020 when I helped my church to get their services online. And we've been doing that every Sunday since. And I've been working with a lot of different groups in a lot of different ways to bring their message out there, bring their talent, their skill, their message. So what I try to do is I get out here and I talk about all the different things that I've learned. And hopefully, try and avoid some of the mistakes that I made. So if you're new to streaming, if you are just getting started, thinking about doing it, I encourage it. I hope that you can watch some of my stuff and learn a little bit. And even if you are, been doing this for a while, there's probably some things you can pick up from what I've learned. So that's kind of what I do. That's me, and what I'm doing this month actually has been I'm doing a how to create a large online event, and yeah, I do these all the time. So I've done some most weeks. I'm working with a couple of hundred people in an event. But I've been in some that are upwards of 1,000, and those are, those can get pretty complex pretty quick. So if you're thinking of doing really any live stream, but a large online event, you can watch, some of the stuff that I've done over the last month, and get an idea of how to put all this together, because there's so many pieces to it. So I keep doing that. On February 19th, I'm going to be doing a showcase event that puts all this stuff together and shows it and shows everything you can use. We're going to be using breakout rooms, and we're going to be using slide shares, and we're going to have musicians, and it's going to be great. It's going to be a party. I'll be honest about it. It's going to be a party. But you can apply all these things to your feed, to your stream, and get your message out there, and hopefully, I can help. So let's see. So we started off a couple of weeks ago with maybe the least exciting piece of this, which was putting together all of the documentation and things that you're going to use throughout the course of your event to make it, to keep track of where you're at. It's very, very easy to get sidetracked because there's so many things that you have to deal with. And, task saturation is a huge thing. And that's when you've got so many things going on all at the same time that you kind of just are overloaded. And so having things like checklists and other documents that you can use really help if you get lost in those windows. You just are, completely swimming in windows. And I've seen it happen more than once. I've seen it happen to the best of the technicians. You forget where everything's at. You accidentally close something that you meant to have open. Hopefully it's not anything important like your Zoom meeting, but that happens too. So that task saturation is what we're trying to, keep to a minimum. And so that first part, phase one, was putting those documents together, and we'll go through those quick list of what those were before we get into this week's content. So probably the least exciting of all of them. But last week we got to some of the real fun stuff, creating some content that you can use during your stream. So slides. We used a little bit of Canva to put some of those together. We did a little bit about video presentation, so you can look good on camera. You can really engage with your audience so they can see you. The basics, turning on your lights, sitting up, looking at the camera, those things. And then on Friday, I think it was, we got a little bit about video editing. just with a basic YouTube video editor, nothing fancy, but enough to trim off the front part of the video and then maybe find a clip in there that was, a piece that you wanted to use. And a couple of other tips like, let the tape run and then clip things out. You don't have to start and stop and start and stop and start and stop. So little things like that, you can check that out. That was phase 2, some of the nice, creative part of this, the creating your, crafting your message. So that was fun. And this week, what we're getting into is the best part of this, the putting together a large online event, and that's the people. That's the people. That's, the people that are going to help you, hopefully, if you have something. I'm presenting this from the standpoint if you're working by yourself. You're solo operators out there, you're the only person doing it, and you need to get an event online, like, for like in my case it was church services, but it could be anything, you could be working by yourself. And so what I try to do is present my stuff from that standpoint, so that if you're working by yourself, you can, hopefully manage something a little bit complex. You don't have to use everything that I talk about, but you can apply it to larger and larger and larger groups. So that's what we're getting to this week, is the fun part, or the really great part in my mind, is the, once you've gone live, you've got this audience looking at you, and they want you to do something, and so that's what we're going to talk about. And we're going to break it up into 3 different parts. First one, maybe you've got some moderators or co-hosts to help you, but if you don't, then you're the moderator and the co-host. So that's sort of the bad news there. If you're working by yourself, you get to do all of this stuff. So we'll get to that. That's today. That's what I'll be talking about today. And this is probably going to be a long session. We're going to go the full hour today. And one of my things is I don't recommend a meeting of any type more than an hour online. It just wears your audience out. It just wears them out. And your message, whatever you're talking about, just gets diluted. People leave. They go to Netflix, they go to YouTube, some other YouTube channel, listen to some music. So there's all sorts of reasons to limit that time. If there's one thing you do, limit those meetings to an hour. But today I'm going to go the full hour probably. I got a lot to cover. And then on Friday we'll get to the audience. When you have people coming in, and how to engage with them, how to manage all the pieces and the stuff that you're doing. So that's what we'll do on Friday. And then for the next couple of weeks, we'll be practicing all those pieces. Going through, doing some different configurations of all your different windows, depending on your job. If you're a co-host or if you're the host. So we'll go through some of that, and I'll touch on some of that today. But in the next few weeks, we're going to be practicing before we go live for this large event on February 19th. I got it right that time. And you can always go to my website to get links to all my stuff. I go out on all the major platforms, and you can get links to all of those depending on which one you're comfortable with, which one you use the most. So those are there, and then there's links to all the other content that I've been putting out too. So, and you can RSVP if you want to be in the Zoom meeting part of it. That's going to be the main audience hall, if you will, is the Zoom meeting. But we'll be broadcasting to all those different platforms. So you can go there. Did it again. You can go there and find that. So, and February 19th, I didn't know this. I just found this out. It is my grandpa's birthday, and he would have been 104. So that's kind of cool. I didn't know that. I found that out last night. So I was like, wow, that's kind of a neat thing. I picked the date, and then just one of those things. So that's kind of cool. So my grandpa was a pretty great guy. Taught me a lot about building things and making things and fixing things, and yeah, this maybe I'll dedicate this to him. That might be a good thing. So anyway, that's the plan for the next, what we've been doing, what we're doing this week, what we're going to be doing next couple of weeks. February 19th, RSVP if you want. My name is Michael Kyer. I use he, they pronouns. And if you know me, my pronouns did change. Okay, they did change. That happens. It's not a permanent thing. You can change them depending on where you're at with that. And we'll be getting to a little bit about pronouns when we get to the audience list. So that's a little primer on that we'll do today. When you're bringing your audience in and you're getting, everybody settled, and you're doing your introductions, you're doing your hellos, then that'll be a part of that. So, all right. So yeah, I talked about just everything. RSVP if you want. We're going to be doing all sorts of stuff on the 19th. That'll be a lot of fun. We're talking about the people today, which is the fun part. So at this point, I'm going to assume that you've got your documentation stuff put together. You've got a little bit of content that you're ready to put out there, and we're gonna get. That's where we're going to start from today. And now the method that you're going to be streaming with, whether it's going to be streaming from OBS or streaming from Twitch or Facebook or YouTube or whatever, I'm going to assume that you've picked that, and that, depends on personal choice. It depends on which audience that you're going for. If you can manage it, I would suggest going to all of them. You're out on the internet and the world can see you anyway, so you might as well just send it to all those platforms. That's sort of what I think. But hopefully you've got that sort of settled, figured out where you're going, and then the real thing is what type of event are you having? Are you having a one-way webinar where it's just you talking, like me right now? It's sort of a one-way, I'm just broadcasting. I can interact with my audience. I've got my chats open if you want to say hi there, but I'm not doing a live back and forth with my audience today. I could. Technically speaking, I'm in a large online event right now. I don't know. I've got some viewers over on Twitch. Thanks for showing up. I've got some viewers over on YouTube. Thanks for that. A couple on Facebook. Thank you for that. I appreciate that. So large is how you define it. Large for some people is 4 people. It could be 100 people. It could be 1,000 people. It's sort of how you define it. So once you've decided how you're going to do that, then let's go live. Let's turn the camera on and hit the record button. Make sure I'm recording. I always got to remember that. I've gone through a number of presentations where I have not recorded it until somewhere in the middle. So that doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't make you look all that professional when you haven't recorded it, and I don't know, whatever. So that's kind of where we're at, ready to go. We've got our stuff. Now, it's kind of a good thing to think about that in an ideal world, we're going to have solid hardware, solid software, the best network connection. All of those things hopefully would be perfect, right? But that's not the case. Okay, that's not the case. It just isn't. It can't be perfect. It's not going to be perfect. When you first start going live especially, it's not going to be perfect. But if you practice, you set things up, you do your settings, you check everything, you know what your system can do, you know where your software, what all those pieces are, it can make it a lot easier. And the level of your comfort with the technology is really, really important. That's where the practice comes in. The level of how many times do you have that muscle memory? Do you know where things are at? Are you set up correctly? So that is really critical to the success of this of a large event. And Murphy's Law is if it can go wrong, it will. So you can prepare as much as you can, and then you're gonna hope and pray for the best. So I'm going to switch just to video now. Take away my, there we go. Take away some of that distracting extra wording. So level of comfort, if it can go wrong, it will. If you're short of everything except for problems, then you're doing it right. You're doing it correctly. There's so many different, thousands of things that need to take place to get to your event. So that's, keep that in mind as you're going along. There is just so many things to keep in mind, that there's always a hiccup in there. And if there is, just, adjust and maybe apologize real quick to your audience, but keep them, in the loop. Let them know what's happening, so that you can, just keep rolling, keep going. So let's see. And so what you're doing is you're setting this up beforehand. You're doing all this work. You're doing your documentation, your content, your preparation, so that when you get live, when you get to the point where you're turning that camera on for the first time, that it can run, and that it can just run. And hopefully it runs correctly. It doesn't glitch like I just did there for a second. Hopefully that's what you're going for, and your preparation is where that will really come into play. And checklists, I love checklists. Any of my air traffic controllers out there, my pilots, if you're all out there, you're probably just going, yep, checklists, yep. You get that muscle memory. You've gone through things. If you get lost somewhere in the middle of what you're doing, you can kind of go back to that and reorient yourself to what you're doing. So that's the beginning part of this, is just getting yourself prepared, getting everything prepared so that it can run. And then from there, a couple of things is that there's 3 main ways we're going to be interacting with our audience. And that's through text, whether it's in your chat or the things that you're posting, your text messages. Your audio, which is absolutely important, and for a lot of these presentations, audio is king. Audio is first. As much importance as we put on video and all these different pieces, if you don't have the audio, then you're not going to be able to engage with your audience that has their hearing, that can hear. So totally critical. And like, you can have the best presentation everywhere, anywhere, and a dog barks or somebody's on mute. Those completely override what's going on. So the mute button, obviously important. Checking your audio, make sure you've got good audio quality, those pieces of it. So, and I wanted to go back to, so we've got those 3 main pieces that we're going to be dealing with, interacting with our audience with. And so when we go to interact with them, there's what you're going to be doing, what there is to do, what you're going to be showing your audience, and then how you're interacting with them. So your moderators are taking care of what the jobs, your content is what you're showing, and then how you interact with your audience. So then those 3 different components, those 3 different groups, then your 3 different methods of interacting. So already it's starting to get a little complex, right? So the hosts themselves, the person who's the host of the meeting, they're in charge of it. They're the ones that direct what's going on and how it happens. So they're in control of that everybody gets a turn if you're doing a 2-way event, or they're the ones who are, you have to really take control of your meeting, your event, and be ready to, deal with, say a problem in the chat, or part of your feed, one of your feeds drops. You want to be prepared for that. So, and when it comes to Zoom meetings, this is something I like to point out, because the host at a Zoom meeting is just the person who created the meeting, the meeting link, and starts it on their account. It's not necessarily the person who directs the meeting that we would traditionally be thinking of. That's the host, is the person who's doing the talking. So with Zoom, the person actually running the meeting, being the original host, may be labeled as a co-host. So you don't need to be technically the host on a Zoom meeting to host the meeting, if that makes any sense. That's worth pointing out. It's one of those it's a technical definition that can kind of get people a little, tripped up. So, and then when you're dealing with your audience, their comfort is really, really, what we're going for with this. So limiting it to an hour, that helps. But when you're in the meeting itself, you're in your event, you might not have folks who want to have their video on. Video is a personal choice. You may not be comfortable having yourself on video. So it's a personal choice, and you should respect that as the host. If they don't want to be on video, if somebody doesn't have video on, that's perfectly acceptable, and you should respect that. Logging into the meeting, being there, they're listed on the participants list. That's engagement. That's engagement. The video is not necessary. The audio is not necessary. They might not want to talk. They might only be, engaging through the chat. And, if you think for some reason, that the video or audio is more important, it's really, your own personal thoughts on the matter. Maybe their hardware isn't all that great, so their video and their audio isn't all that great. That's one reason. Maybe text is the only way that they can interact. So it's an accessibility issue more than it is, my audience isn't engaging with me. So when you're getting to those three things, those three pieces that you're interacting with your audience with, then really take into account that how they interact is their personal choice, and you should respect that. So I like to say that because I've often seen the host of the meeting really worried, about why people don't have their video on, or that it detracts or whatever it is. And that's your opinion. That's unimportant. It's their comfort that you're looking for. So when you get to that piece of it, when you get to the video pieces of it, hopefully you want them to be able to access it, but it's not necessary. So just a couple of pieces with that. And muting, always important to have folks on mute so that it doesn't detract from the rest of it. Everybody being off mute does not work. It just doesn't work. You can try and experiment with it if you want, but I can tell you right now, it doesn't work. Having one person go at a time is the most effective way to do this, and the host is the one who's in charge of making sure that everybody's taking those turns, or that we're going one at a time. And it's different online. It is different online. You need to take that extra second. It's not the same as if you were in person. So it's a paradigm change, and it does take getting used to. So plan for it. Plan to take turns. If you get crosstalk, people talking over each other, my way I go about it is I just stop what I'm saying and I wait for a break. Even if they're not the person who's supposed to be talking, just wait, because that crosstalk, that cross chatter, it just garbles. You can't. It's completely indecipherable at some point. So one of those things, use the mute button, and don't be afraid. Just use the mute button, and then because it's going to override what's going on in the meeting. So, sort of some general tips for the host. General tips dealing with the audience. Right now, the getting prepared for this. We got a lot of people involved. Maybe Maybe, maybe you've got your moderators, maybe you've got guest speakers, maybe you've got musicians, and all of those main folks involved with your meeting, you really need to prepare them as much as you've already prepared yourself. And if you've been following what I'm doing and you're like, I got this, I've got my documents, I got all this stuff, the other folks you're working with are not necessarily going to be up at the same level as you are. So if you're the host, you're the expert, right? And if you might be the only expert in the room, and you might not know everything, you might not have all your settings, it might not be perfect, but at the same time, you're the one who's in charge of it. So preparing for that ahead of time is really, really important. And so I like to add or make sure that you've got a couple of extra steps when you're doing that practice, you're doing your rehearsal, you're doing your preparation. And that's to a couple of weeks beforehand. If you've got everybody identified who you're going to have on, do a tech preparation. Not a rehearsal, just a tech preparation where you can go through some of your checklists and make sure that the folks that you're with have optimized their system to the best as possible, and they're maybe doing some of those basic presentation pieces. So a tech preparation to get everybody thinking and working on optimizing their system, so that maybe they can connect with a cable to their modem versus using Wi-Fi. Maybe they are closer to their Wi-Fi. There's a couple of those things in the checklist that I put out that you can go through, and doing that a couple of weeks ahead of time is a good idea. So usually we would have, back in the past, we would have had just a rehearsal and a dress rehearsal, right? Everybody gets there, you go through it real quick. Just before the event, you have your dress rehearsal, everything's put together, everybody's dressed up, you go through the whole thing. But it's important to add a tech rehearsal where it's just the technical pieces that you're working on that you go through in practice. So if you've got your moderators, your co-hosts, your speakers, if you can get all of them in so that they can see how it's going to look, not necessarily to do their part, to do their rehearsal, just for the technicians to do the rehearsal, to do their rehearsal is fantastic for making all of this work. So if you're doing scene transitions or you're doing spotlighting, then you can go through and start to get that muscle memory of how that works. The other folks who are going to be participating can see that, but you're not trying to balance two jobs, which is the technical end of things and then your presenter end of things. So a tech rehearsal, your normal rehearsal, and then your dress rehearsal. So it's an additional step that you should build into your planning process. If you skip over it, you're going to be trying to do your tech rehearsal and your normal rehearsal at the same time. And that that's again one of those task saturation pieces where you can get just completely overloaded with what you're doing. So that extra rehearsal in there, extra tech rehearsal, I think is one of those just critical to add to your workflow. So we talked about tech issues a little bit. You can put your tech instructions. We've got some checklists for that. We've got your requirements, your optimization pointers that you can put out there. Those are in their checklist, hopefully in your documents. You can put that stuff out there. Tech issues always come up. There's always something. That's where the tech rehearsal is important, because you can identify those if you haven't caught them yet. You can deal with those local issues, the issues possibly with your system or one of your guest systems. Hopefully you can figure out where that issue's coming from. And then you will have your live instructions. You're going to keep these more simple. This is going to be a laundry list of everything that you can possibly do. There's a couple of, the best way is to put some links up that link out to a more detailed in Zoom has a great little chat bot that works. I'll point that out today. But there's things like that you can post in your link in your chat that will help your audience, but that you don't necessarily have to deal with directly. Now, if you've got a moderator, you've got somebody who can do a tech support, then that's great. But it's very difficult to troubleshoot a system issue when you're live. It just immediately your event will stop, pause. So if it's absolutely necessary, you'll have to deal with it. But links and stuff like that while you're live it's a great way to preempt any of those problems. And issues while you're live, there's always something. Either you didn't set something correctly, or somebody's connection goes strange, or their computer starts updating. There are any number of things that can go and happen. So you have to prepare your mind ahead of time for that. So those are just a few basic, pointers, orientations. I'm going to go into some of the jobs here real quick that the moderators are going to be doing, and show you just a couple of different arrangements, how I arrange my screen, and then how I've got a moderator set up to arrange their screen. And those are two completely different arrangements, and I'll show you that. And so one last piece to keep in mind is that what your audience then sees is different. And so checking that ahead of time to see what that's going to look like for them is important. Because when you share screens, your screen is going to change, your moderator's screen is going to be completely different. So what it looks like to the audience, do your stream, check it out, do your settings, do all your stuff, and check what that looks like. Check your audio, check your video. Is it showing up the way you want it to show up for your event? So my name is Michael Kyer. If you're just joining us, I use he, they pronouns. I'm here streaming Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific from Washington State, the Pacific Northwest, up here in the upper left-hand corner of the United States. That's where I'm at, coming to you live. So I talk about live streaming and video conferencing. A lot of the things that I've learned over the last couple of years as I've been helping all number of different groups to get their message out there. I started with my church right at the beginning of quarantine, and we've been going steady since then, every Sunday, and I worked on all sorts of different sizes of events. Just a few people, a movie night with friends, a couple of 100 people, or I've been on a couple that were over 1,000, and those are big, but same process. You manage it, you sort things, you channel things, you filter things, and it's going to be, your event will be a huge success. So I'm going to switch over. Looks like stream looks good, chat looks good. Still have people on Twitch and YouTube and Facebook. Appreciate it if you're out there. Thanks so much. Say hi in the chat if you get a chance. I'd love to say hi. So let's see. I'm gonna switch over and just do the documents that I use for this. So let's see. Okay, I'll show you my screen so you can see what I've been looking at. My screen. So this is me. All right, there you go. You can see me. Actually, I've got more than, I'll just turn that. Nope, not that one. Yep. Okay. What is the deal? Main monitor, video capture. There we go. Okay, I wanted to take my video off there for a second. So this is my main monitor. You can see where I'm at right now. I've got OBS in the center. That's where I'm doing the majority of my work. I've got my little notes right there. I've got my restream chat for everybody who said hi. Peter's up there. I've got my posts from myself earlier. So that is my main chat. That's where all my chat channels are coming into, so that I can see those in one spot. Those are there. I've got my Zoom meeting open over here. I've got a few different feeds in that. I'll open that up in a little bit. And this is a list of all the documents that we've used over the we generated. So I will open that up. And it's a pretty big list of potential things. You don't have to use all of them, but you've got folders for music, pre-recorded video. You've got advertising scripts, agenda, checklists, your go live checklist, your guest list, planning notes, post tracking, scene list, scripts, slideshows. Each one of these different but are important. Slideshow, that's pretty self-explanatory. The script that you're going to be using, this one actually is blank. A list of all the different scenes that you're going to put. This can get pretty complicated. All the posts that you've actually done to get ready for this, those you can keep track of. Planning notes, this can get complicated, but a good place to keep a list of all the important pieces, all your links, contacts that we'll be using, list of your guest instructions. I talked about these earlier. That you can send to your guests, and then your live instructions. A good place to keep all of those things. List of your guests. Right now, I'm the only guest on here that I've got listed. Your go live checklist. These are the things that you actually do 1 hour prior. A whole big long list. I think I've got 36 on here. Different things that you're going to be opening and adjusting. So that's a pretty big list for anybody that you're looking for a quick overview of what happens just prior to going live. So that's a huge checklist. And then a whole other set of checklists here about the different software you're going to be using, documents, instructions. I mean, you don't have to use all of these, but there's lots of options there that you can cut out and paste. Agenda and whatnot. So that was all the different things we generated in phase 1. If you want to use them, you can use them. You can customize them if you want. I'll be putting out a link to that. You'll be able to see that. If you'd like to just use this as a template, you're absolutely welcome to do that. It's nothing fancy. It's pretty basic, but I'm happy to share that if anybody would like a link to that. I'm going to be putting that out on my website as well, so you'll be able to use that. But you've got this list of things that we're starting, so I have that up, and that's off to the side in case I need something. I just move it. I get ready, just in case it's there, and I can adjust those and move those around. Often I'm just using a text document for tracking what I'm doing, so that's the way I do it right now, but you might have something a little bit more complicated, and you have links open to that. And how you arrange that, you might have it just partially open, so you can scroll through it. Yeah, sure, so you can see it. Let me make it so you can see it. So you can just scroll through your list and then open them individually, but you might have your script open and moved off to a side, and you can watch that live. You might be doing that. There are different ways you can arrange your screens, and you're already seeing there's a whole ton of different screens. So getting used to resizing windows, that's important. Understanding kind of where things are at, how to access them, those are important. So, and it's personal choice. It depending on your workflow, depending on what it is you're doing. So getting used to that, I usually use that as one of the benchmarks for one of my technicians, is if they are comfortable with resizing windows and moving windows around and doing all that stuff. So this is another one that I had out. This is a ebook that I put together about how to hold a Zoom event, which is more of just Zoom. So that's this is good for, you can put this out for audiences. Breathing, 1, 2, 3, 2, 1, go. That's always fun. More of the same. I've gone over a lot of these, but then a description of Zoom. So there's additional documents. If you need additional documents, you need more documents. Let's see. I'm going to put myself back on there. Fade. There I am. All right. I'm going to put me down there. Baby, woo! I see how I moved around real quick? That was just awesome. Okay, so you can see, let's see, we did that. We did the ebook script, just in case. Now, the Zoom meeting itself, let's say, we've got everything set up. We're streaming to all our platforms. The Zoom meeting itself, and that is how this arrange, depending on, your workflow, you can arrange this in any number of ways. So right now I got this minimized, but I'm going to open this up. I've got a list of everybody I've got on here. Make sure I've still got them on. And so, give that a second. Okay, my Zoom meeting. All right, my Zoom meeting. There we go. Let me get that out of the way. I'll just move these for right now so I can focus on this. Just put that over there and put that over there. Just get that out of the way. And I will get OBS out of my way just because. Okay, so I'm just looking at my Zoom meeting right now. And if you've watched my stuff, I've done entire streams just about how to use Zoom, basic stuff, more advanced stuff, and so you can always refer to one of those as you go. But I'm going to just use this as a quick demonstration today of some of the things that I use. So oh, actually, I meant to kick all these people out into the waiting room. That's what I meant to do. Always forget to do something too. Okay, so I've got guests 1, 2, and 3 in the waiting room. You can see that in my participants list. And currently, I've only got me and my moderator and my co-host in here. And these are just accounts that I'm running that are just a feed for right now. So I'm not going to put the video on. I'm not going to be doing any spotlight work right now. We'll do that later in the week when we're doing working with the audience specifically. But this is how you're going to start your meeting. You're going to have your first group in there who's going to be running the meeting, and then you'll have some folks in the waiting room. And when you're getting ready to go, you'll be hopefully you'll have all your video figured out, and then you can identify who's who and how they're labeled. You can relabel in Zoom. You can rename things, and this can be very handy. I always use that word. I need to find a better word for that. But you can rename people so that the audience can know specifically who that is, whether it's a moderator or co-host, or if it's just a name. You can relabel these in different ways. And I relabeled the ones up above as guests just to differentiate that a little bit. And so I do want to do a quick piece about how to get your pronouns in here. Pronouns are important to use, and we're trying to normalize that use. It's new for a lot of folks, so they're not used to using them as part of their introduction, or used to seeing other people using them. But it's an important practice, and so I've got there's 2 ways to get this into Zoom, and that's what I wanted to touch on real quick. You can rename yourself directly in Zoom when you get into the Zoom meeting. So if you can remember to do that, that's one way to do it. Just rename yourself. You can see on your participant, you can just go right to your rename and then type in whichever your name is, or rename yourself and add your pronouns. Whichever way you want to do that, you can get there. And then the other way is to go onto your Zoom profile on the web portal and edit that, and there's a field in there for your pronouns, and you can then when you go to your meetings, it will always display. You won't have to remember it, and it'll be there ready to go for you. So and this is another quick one for folks out there. If there's many different types of pronouns if you're not familiar with that yet. So these are some of the ones that you might be seeing. In my case, you can see mine, he, they, and you've also got other possibilities. For my moderator right now is Z, her, and my co-host is Z, them. That's pronunciation for them, and so for those pronunciation for those pronouns. Sorry, didn't want to confuse you there. So those are some possibilities that you might see if you're not familiar with that. And don't make an assumption about somebody's pronouns. If you don't know, ask. If you don't know, if you say the wrong thing, that's okay. If you just correct yourself. Apologize if you need to, but then make a better effort next time and just keep moving forward. So pronouns, very important, and that's what I almost forgot. I'm going to put a link to this so that you can, if you need a little bit extra, let's see, copy, put this into my chat. I'm going to post this. Oh, sure. Okay, it worked. Yeah. Okay, that should show up as a link now. My pronouns give you a little bit of a primer on how to use them, how they're used, and then so that when you see them, you'll have a little bit better idea of what how to use them. So that's a link for that one, and I actually have one more if you want to know a little bit more about it, and I encourage this. Copy that. This one's a little bit more, understanding why this is important, so don't make any assumptions, based on what you see or what you think somebody's name means or what it. Don't make any assumptions. Just ask if you don't know. Ask about pronunciation. That's perfectly fine, and you can get used to it. It's just a matter of changing an older way of thinking to a more current way of introducing ourselves and introducing who you are and getting to know who other people are. So those are important. I wanted to point those out because there's, like I said, it's not as a familiar practice for some folks. So knowing how to do that, how to change your name is important. So let's see. I got both my links out, so that's good. Where am I at? I am okay. So our basic jobs in a Zoom meeting are, we're going to manage the participants. We've got our list up there. We've got folks in the waiting room. We've got my moderators, my co-hosts in the meeting right now. We're going to have the chat. That's the other one, and then we've got our share screen, which is going to be our content, where we're going to be sharing our content. So depending on what we're using there, the share is an important job. And then your administration and your security. How do we want this meeting to operate? Do we want everybody to be able to do everything? Do we want the waiting room on? Then you can alter those. For your guests, you're not going to maybe necessarily want them to be able to share their screen, but these are depending on how you want your event to operate. This is where you will do that. So those are three main jobs: your chat, your participants, and your share screen. And so four main jobs: chat, participants, security, and sharing. So we'll be getting into those later in the week. We'll be practicing with them. We'll be arranging some of our windows. But that's the first breakdown that the moderators and the co-hosts are going to be responsible for. So if you're the only person doing it, you're going to be responsible for all those things. And that's where it gets complicated. And if hopefully you've got some people working with you, then maybe you can break those up so that you've got somebody dedicated to dealing with the participant list, somebody dedicated dealing with the chat. Makes things a lot easier. I've been extremely blessed with working with a tech team of 6 people, more than 6, 8. I can't remember. There's a lot. It's been great to be able to distribute that work and have more than one set of eyes working on, and ears and minds, working on keeping all of this straight, keeping all this together. So, and each one of us can get, completely task saturated. So there's always hopefully somebody else who can jump in if you miss something, or you're busy doing one thing and something else happens. That is one of those. It's the benefit of working with a team when you're doing this. I always suggest to don't fly alone if you're doing this. Have somebody with you as a backup, as as a moderator. So working with somebody really helps. And so I hope that you can do that. If you're absolutely pressed, you can get a hold of me, and I can help in some way. I do that all the time. I'd be happy to do a quick consultation. You can get a hold of me through my website, or get into, even if you wanted to pay me for contract work, something along those lines, I'm available for that as well. But I know how it goes. You might just be the only person doing it. So those are, these are the beginnings of that. So when you're arranging your screen, popping out the chat to move it to someplace, popping out your participants to move that someplace a little bit more. You can stretch that out so you can see everybody. You can move your meeting around. Depending on what you're using, you can go and add your text document back. We might bring my overall chat back in here. We might bring OBS back in here. Let's make OBS a little bit smaller. So you're going to have any number of different additional windows that you're putting on your meeting with. And so right now I'm going to go let everybody into my meeting. Yay, they're all going to join. They're all going to join. And these are all my guests. These are, I had these set up beforehand with their pronouns. So they show up in the participants list. You can see that. But it doesn't show up as their name. Is their name on their video feed there for a second. So it's going to show up a little bit differently depending on how you have it entered. But guests 1, 2, and 3 have those entered into their Zoom profile, so that it shows up every single time they are in a meeting, and that is the easiest way to do that. So you don't always have to think about it. You won't forget it, and it'll be there ready to go for you. So 2 different ways. Everybody beforehand, we entered them manually, and then you can have them preset. So depending on where you set those up, it shows up a little bit different in the participants list, and that's why I wanted to point that out real quick. So any number of different things we're going to have on our main screen, and how you arrange this, gets to be important. You might squish it down, you might change it to just gallery view, whatever. So those are lots of different pieces. So, and then I'm going to actually switch OBS here over to show you both of my monitors. These are both of my monitors. You can see those now. The one on the left is my my moderator screen. So that's where I keep both screens. That's where I keep my stream manager. That's where I keep that. I've got my Twitch chat open over there. And then my YouTube, I've got that open over there as well. You can see that up there at the top, so that I can adjust those directly. YouTube, if there's a problem on YouTube, I can correct it there. If there's somebody specifically in Twitch, I can do that. And then I've got my YouTube chat popped out so I can monitor that. And that's what I've got off on the left. That's my second screen. So I work with 2 screens. If you're only working with one, this gets even more difficult. So if you have the chance to work with more than one screen, I encourage it. But you can see how I've got those arranged. I've got my main screen, and I've got my moderation monitoring screen that I use. So that's my setup. That's my system. I'll go back just to my main monitor. Okay, there we go. So that's back to my main screen. But what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna have one of my other accounts here. I'm gonna open this all the way up, and I'm gonna get participants and chat out of the way because I don't have anybody chatting. So this is just a gallery view of my Zoom meeting. And now I know you can see me in the bottom down here, but I'm not actually on that Zoom meeting. You can see I'm just not there. I am on OBS. So that's just an overlay so you can see me. So you know, don't forget that I'm still here. Gallery view, you can see all my the folks in my meeting, both my host, co-host, moderator, me, you know, and I'm going to have my moderator now share their screen. This is if you were working with somebody else, it'd be on a separate system, and you can see that there's a lot of duplication here of what's going on. So I've got this shared. I'm going to share that main screen. And let's see, hopefully that shows up correctly. No, it doesn't. Oh boy, bother. Oh yes. Okay, that doesn't show up correctly because I'm trying to show. Let's see. Nope, that didn't work the way I wanted it to. Because okay, so you can't use Zoom to show Zoom. So that gray hash area is where my Zoom meeting windows are, so you can't see those, but you can see these other windows I've got open over there. The moderator has their, actually, let me see if, yeah, okay, so you can see my Zoom taskbar is blanked out, but you can see me moving it around a little bit. So that's why you can't see that. The chat is right over here, but it's moved out of the way, so you can't see that. It's obscured, but there's a chat window there, and then this one. Let's see if you can see that one a little bit. The one I'm moving now is my Zoom application that is also obscured. And in front of my Zoom application, let's see, yep, that one right there is the Zoom meeting. So my moderator has all the same stuff I have. They maybe are looking more specifically at Discord. You can see my Discord thing there. My Discord server for me, michaelkyer.net. You can get the link to that at my website, michaelkyer.net. Made that easy. To get to here, but that would be what my moderator might be looking at. Their Discord, they might have a list of, they might have all of my different platforms open. In this case, everything. Let me go ahead and close that. Close that. Move this out of the way. Move this out of the way. Okay, hopefully that'll show up a little bit better. Yeah, that shows up a little bit better. So what you're seeing is my moderator sharing a screen of their main screen. They might be looking at, have all of my different platforms open so that we can monitor those. In this case, it's my Twitch moderator view for them. It could be my YouTube site itself. We're going to refresh that. So maybe they're on that. Once it refreshes. So So they have my YouTube channel open. I'm looking at that. So yeah, you can see we're live. You know, this is live on YouTube right now. So I'm on my computer broadcasting to YouTube. Actually, no, I'm on my computer using OBS to do my captures to send to YouTube, and then I'm having another computer in a Zoom meeting, share screening the website of YouTube. Like I said, it gets complex. But this is a picture of what my moderator's looking at. So they can have a handle on all of my different platforms so that I don't necessarily have to be looking at those specifically while I'm doing my presentation. My website, this is where you can see my website. If you wanted to RSVP, right here on the front page is a link to that. But then again, it's the same thing you can see at the top. It might be Twitter. That's my Twitter page. Facebook might be Facebook page. It could be LinkedIn. Yep, double checking that. That's there. And then my How to Create a Large Online Event RSVP page. They might be monitoring that. So that's my moderator's job. They could be just, keeping an eye on all those different areas, those different things those are where I'm broadcasting to. So they keep an eye on those. Maybe Discord, maybe your Twitch, a stream manager, be any number of things. And so their screen is going to be completely different than my screen, and then completely different from the audience's screen. So keeping that in mind, that you've got everybody's view is different. What I'm looking at is not the same thing you're looking at. So it's good to test it, to know how it's going to show up on YouTube, how it's going to show up on Facebook, wherever you're going. So test. Very important. So that is my moderator's screen. And then back to my meeting. I cut back to my meeting. So, it starts to get pretty complex. But if you can simplify your workflow, you can do your checklists, you can get a good idea of how to go about this, how to get this moving. So lots of stuff in one day. I know. It is. Gonna cut back to me real quick. Woohoo, there I am. Okay, so lots of stuff for one day. Like I said, task saturation is a real thing. Checklists are important. Use them, please. Prepare, do your stuff ahead of time. Then you'll be able to handle that complex stuff, that complex meeting. Lots of different things going on, but you'll get used to it eventually, and you can make a fantastic event. So my name is Michael Kyer. I use he/they pronouns. I'm out here Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10 a.m. Pacific from the great state of Washington, talking about live streaming and video conferencing and software and all sorts of different things that I've learned. I do some, software demonstrations once in a while, and that's what I do out here. And over the last month until February, let's see, put my info up there. February 19th, keep doing that. February 19th, 2022, doing a showcase event where we're putting all of these pieces together. All the stuff I've been talking about. Phase 1, getting all your documents, all your checklists together. Phase 2, your content, video presentation, edited, pre-recorded video. And then now what we're doing this week, which is phase 3, which is working with the people part. That's the fun part. It's the most complex part. It's the hardest part, is the people for sure. But that's what we're working on now. And then, on February 19th, we're going to be having a showcase event. Zoom meeting is going to be the main auditorium room, but then we'll be broadcasting out to all of those platforms that I showed you with my moderator, and maybe Instagram as well. If I can get that part working. I haven't gotten that one working yet. So that's it for today, I think. Lots to think about, lots to take in. Like I said, we went the full hour. If you've been watching, I appreciate it. Always use an extra viewer here and there. and been out here just about 3 months now, doing a lot of streaming, getting a lot of information out, and growing my audience, and it's been great. It's been fantastic. I know you can do it if you're getting started, if you're new. I encourage it. Watch my stuff. It'll help. If you needed the encouragement to do it, I can give you that. If you need the tools to do it, I can give you that. But I can't do it for you. So you're the one that has to push the record button. You're the one that has to push the go button. But do it. Do it. All right? So I'm going to leave it at that. I will see you on Wednesday. We're going to be talking about how to get the presentation part of that going in the jobs, the share screen. That we're going to be doing a lot with the share screen, and how to divide that up. So we'll be going there. And that's it. That's it for right now. So as always, have fun, learn, and if you're vaccines, if you're eligible for your vaccine, please get it. We need to get ahead of this thing, this Omicron, COVID-19. We need to get rid of it. We need to be done. So please, if you're eligible to get your vaccine, get out there and do it. It's good for you. It's good for your neighbors. It's good for your family. It's good for everybody. All right. So now that'll be the end of today's stream. Okay.